Good morning. Today is Thursday, Rosh Chodesh, July, Canada Day, the 20.
No.
No.
Hold
The
on.
first.
The 1st of July and the 21st of Tammuz, right? Yes. Chav Aleph Tammuz. We're now within the 3 weeks. And we're dedicating today's learning, of course, in prayerful wishes for whatever kind of brachas we could possibly hope to channel towards Surfside, the people that are displaced, the people that need a refuah, the people that are involved in their recovery efforts, and halavai. Hashem, we say, is the roife kol basar u'mafi lasais. Hashem is the one who heals all flesh and could do wonders. So we'll ask Hashem, we'll give Hashem the permission to do the unfathomable and to give us something, to give us some encouragement. And then, of course, we're going to dedicate today's learning in honor of our dear, one of the founding members' grandson, who just had his bris not long ago. And he, Shiloh Paz. And Mark, his last name is?
Last name is Beanstalk.
Beanstalk.
He's Ben Avram C.
Ben Avram C. So we welcome a new Beanstalk to the world. He should bring a lot of light and joy and nachis to his grandfather and the whole mishpacha, and we should only have happy, good occasions to share together, full of simcha and happiness, and he should become a big person in Klal Yisrael and the entire world. He should bring a lot of nachas to the world. And so much wonderful potential, and he has good yichus, his good stock, and he should go in the ways of his grandfather in the way of Torah and avodah and gemilas chasadim. So
we should also mention Chabad opening the shul in the lowest part on earth in one of the stations of the new Israeli railway, and they quoted the piece from the depths. We cry out to you.
Very interesting.
Where did they open it?
In the station in Jerusalem, which will be the hub of the train, the local, and all the others. I think Nachlat Benyamin. I'm not sure.
Oh, so you're saying there is a new train station
with a Torah?
I didn't see the article after.
The lowest shul in the world.
Incredible. So I've been a little unplugged from the news, so I'll have to go check that out. That sounds very interesting.
Jerusalem Post.
Fantastic. So I'm glad that we have all of our important members here, our Torah scholars, and not that I should ever show favorites, but it's particularly good that we have with us a Schuster, because we're going to continue our discussion about footwear and shoes, and we're going to continue.
Where would I be without a hammer?
Oh.
So in all fairness, unmentioned but present throughout our Gemara is going to be indeed the hammer as well.
But Reb Beryl brings the soul to the Chabura.
So now we can get started.
Watch the tongue. Don't worry about the soul.
I give out. We should enter a competition for.
Right.
But one pun worth mentioning: Isaac Stern toured Europe, and Time magazine said he left no tone unsterned.
So we're talking about shoes, and we're talking about a particularly curious and peculiar halacha, which certainly sounds strange to us, which is that a shoe with nails cannot be worn on Shabbos. And we discussed long ago on Monday, which was the 17th of Tammuz, we discussed about this idea of the nails in the shoe, or the sandal rather, I should say, which apparently made a whole lot of noise. 3 different possible variations of a story where a great tragedy occurred to the Jewish people on a Shabbos, where they felt they were rightfully scared of an oppressing force, and the sound of the shoe or the appearance of the shoe or whatever exactly it was caused a stampede and led to great loss. And to commemorate the tragic event, the Chazal prohibited wearing these shoes with nails on the bottom. But it's not really any sandal that has shoes. It is certain sandals that have nails in them. And we're going to now discuss how many nails is a problem, how many is not. And we're also going to answer along the way a question that someone asked on Monday. It might have actually been our missing kohen, Rabbi Allen. So if he joins us or when we see him next, we'll let him know that I think we're going to answer. I think it was his question. We answer his question. So let's see the Gemara. We may have read this line, but I believe this is where we're up to. Again, continuing the discussion of when and how and why. Okay, not why. When and how a sandal with nails might be prohibited. Here we go. Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel. Rav Yehuda quoted the teaching of Shmuel to say as follows. Lo ishanu, this law prohibiting shoes or sandals with a nail was only mentioned and taught in the context of nails that are lechazik. They are there to actually hold together, strengthen, and secure the sandal. Rashi, shemas miroisav nasu lechazik ha'ekev. The nails are there to strengthen the heel. Shula imapanta shekarim in pailav olenoimuter. Basically, when the nail, and we did do this on Monday, but we'll almost be in new territory. When the nail is there on Sunday, when the nail is there to fashion and attach. I'm sorry, I stand corrected on Sunday. The nail is there to put together the bottom part of the foot gear and the part of the sandal that goes on top of your foot. But if the nails are only there for style, mutar, one may wear such a shoe. The Gemara is going to work now and develop a formula. How do you know if the nails that are present are there to strengthen the shoe, to hold it all together, or just for style? And before going to the details, the case the Gemara makes is simple. A piece of foot gear, a sandal, if it's literally holding all the pieces together, is going to need a considerable number of nails if it's literally putting it all together. So if there are relatively few nails, we can infer that they're only there for the design and not there to actually put the sandal together. It was at this point on Sunday where somebody asked, so then how would the footwear, the sandal, be attached? And we suppose that it would be stitched together, and we'll see shortly confirmation of that. Rabbi Beryl Schuster, you get
Rabbi, I would have made the argument the other way around. If he's wearing a shoe, because the nails make it a shoe, and not allowed, and nails that are there for jewelry or whatever you want to call it are allowed.
Yeah, and only for one reason. You're right. With the with higoyin, with seichel, with a rationale, we probably would say like you're saying. Why are we distinguishing between a shoe that is part of the essential composition or design? What's the difference? The answer, I believe, would be where the gezerah was highly tailored to the circumstances of the event. And so it's only on Shabbos and Yontif, not on a fast day. And it's only if it's actually a shoe that's held together by those components. I believe that would be the answer. Did anyone else want to add something before we continue? All right, so let's.
I think the concern is probably that if the nail came out at Shabbos.
Right.
So.
Oh, you're saying you could have.
Of talachas, if an ornament comes off, no, that doesn't look as pretty, whatever.
Right.
But if the nail comes out, what do you do?
Actually,
dangerous. You can't fix it.
That's an interesting question to consider. What do you do if the shoe breaks? It's not going to be discussed in this context, but we will discuss it, Be'ezer Hashem, soon enough. So thank you for adding that.
I think the concern here is that it's only those nails that are used to keep the sandal together could create noise. And the nails that are inserted for beauty to decorate the sandal are either small or whatever, but they don't create that noise that caused the accident.
And just to add to what the professor is saying, is that if it's for style, it's more likely to be not on the bottom of the shoe, but on the sides of the shoe where it's visible. Further confirming what the professor is saying, it's less likely to make the kind of noise or pattern in the earth that is the concern of our story. Very correct. Yasher Koyach, professor, for adding that. So now the Gemara is going to try to come up with a formula. V'kama linoi. How many nails? How do we look at it? I'm in the store. I want to buy myself a beautiful pair of Shabbos sandals. Yeah, this probably wouldn't work in Teaneck or Brooklyn, but in Israel or in Bavel, or in somewhere in the Sahara, it's likely that you would have a beautiful Shabbos pair of sandals. So how do you know if it's a Shabbos dickish pair of shoes? Can you wear it outside or not? So Rabbi Yochanan says, simple. Chamesh bazeh, v'chamesh bazeh. Look how many nails are on a sandal. If there are 5 bazeh and 5 bazeh, if there are 5 nails on one sandal and 5 on the other sandal, then you know that it's only decorative, because 5 nails is insufficient to hammer together the entire shoe in a way that it's going to last. The comments brought in later Sefarim, I believe it's the Sfas Emes, point out that this is if you don't know. But if it's clearly that those 5 nails are the 5 nails holding the shoe together, it would be a good question. That might yet be a problem. So this is not magic. It's just what is the reasonable number of nails that cannot be for keeping a shoe together. So Rabbi Yochanan says 5 nails in a sandal. Rabbi Chanina disagrees. He's a little more mekel. He's a little more inclined to permit a sandal with a few more nails. Sheva bazeh v'sheva bazeh. His magic number is 7 nails apiece. All right. Amar lei Rabbi Yochanan Rav Shimon ben Abba. I'm going to rely heavily on Rabbi Steinsaltz's translation for deciphering this Gemara. Rabbi Yochanan tells Rav Shimon bar Abba, Asber lach, I'll explain to you. This is Rabbi Yochanan. Lididi, here's how I see a sandal needing 5 nails. Shtayim mikan, 2 in the front. No, here, let's see. 2 are inserted from here on the outside, near the toes. Sorry, 1 near the toe, 1 near the heel. Vishtayim mikan, and 2 on the outside of the foot of the shoe. V'achas b'treisi yosav, and 1 for its strap. So think about the sandals we have today. You know, you might have like you might have 2. Sometimes it comes together at a point in the front for between your big toe and your the next toe. Is that an index? I don't know if you call it an index. I'm not sure how you refer to your toes. But anyways, so Rashi, letzad chitzon echad v'roisha letzad etzbais avach letzad akevoi v'shtayim mikan letzad pinimi laver bein harglayim. Basically, on the inside of the shoe and the outside of the sandal, 2 nails apiece. And then there's also a strap involved, and that gets an additional nail. So if it's just that much, I guess it's all for beauty, because that would be insufficient to literally fashion a shoe. Rabbi Chanina says no. Shalosh mikan. Even if there's 2 and 1 extra nail on each part of the shoe, the inside of the shoe and the outside of the shoe. I should correct myself. I say shoe, but really we're talking about a sandal. V'achas v'sritzi yosav, and 1 in for the strap. So that would also be considered decorative. All right, the comments that I have over here say that the primary way of tying down a sandal to your feet is not the way I was portraying a flip-flop. Rather, it was some kind of strapping system, the way we might imagine ancient sandals, where there's a lot of straps going on. I'm going to do something. Let's Google this. Roman sandals. Granted, I'm not sure if the people in the Gemara are talking about Rome, but I think that's how we might. Again, I may be off, but at least conceptually, well, actually, that's not really what I was thinking, but something more like this, where it's actually straps are wrapping around. And I should probably stop searching from here, but suffice it to say, many sandals would have straps like that, and that apparently is what a Roman a sandal with straps are. Now, while we're at it, you could purchase a Roman soldier legionnaire leather shoe, and look at the bottom of that shoe. Look at all those nails. You see that? And things are starting to make sense, because remember, one of the versions of the story was they saw the print in the sand, and so maybe this style was prevalent among the Romans. Here's an ancient looking statue portraying that similarly there's a lot of, again, I didn't say that is actually ancient, it looks old. But anyway, so they're typically tied up with straps. And if it's only this amount of nails, you're going to need straps to keep it on. But more than that, it might actually be to hold it all together. Meisvei, the Gemara is not going to present a problem. Well, what's the problem? Let's see. Sandal hanoite, an uneven sandal. Shetachton shaloi einoi shava. Sha'av mitzadeh, vidak mitzadeh. Ukishadeiris, noite letzad hadak. L'tzorach lagbiya she'yeshava letzad shekenegdei. The shoe is with a little bit of a heel or a sloping. So it looks like the heel is thicker on one side, narrower on the other side. And you have to kind of do some extra lifting of your feet to keep everything working out. That's Rashi says. So, Oisaloi Sheva, you put in 7 nails and it's still kosher. Divi Rabbi Nassim, that's what Rabbi Nassim says. Rabbi Matri B'Shleish Aser and Rabbi Yehuda. Hanasi says 13 nails. So that's a problem, right? 13 nails. Who says 13 nails? So here's the Gemara's question. Vishlim Rabbi Chanina. Rabbi Chanina, who's the rabbi who says 7 nails are kosher on Shabbos. 7 nails in your sandal you're allowed to wear. Who the Amar Rabbi Nassim. This rabbi, Rabbi Chanina, a sage of the Gemara, has his words reflected in the earlier teachings of Rabbi Nassim in the Mishnah. Right? This is an earlier and more authoritative text. El Rabbi Yochanan, one of the founding, but a member of the Gemara in Amora, he says 5 nails. Amar Keman, he's not reflected in this brisa. Neither Rabbi Nassim nor Rabbi Meir say that only 5 nails are the maximum for your sandal to be Shabbos friendly. Can you imagine if this was an issue today? We'd have a whole industry of Shabbos sandals. There'd be so much money to make. El Rabbi Yochanan, the Amar Keman, who reflects the opinion of Rabbi, or whose opinion is Rabbi Yochanan reflecting when he says 5? Who the Amar? Oh, I'm sorry. All right, I unshared the screen. Who the Amar ki Rabbi Nehorai? He is following the opinion of Rabbi Nehorai. The Tanya, Rabbi Nehorai, Amar Chamesh Mutar V'Sheva Asar. Rabbi Nehorai is of the opinion that 5 nails good, 7 nails prohibited. Now, give me 1 second. There's a problem here. Hold on. 1 moment. All right, anyways, long story short, bottom line is that his opinion is reflected in the teaching of Rabbi Nehorai. The question that everybody asks is, why doesn't he mention 6? Why does he only mention 5 permitted, 7 prohibited? What's with number 6? So I think the simple answer is that there was expected to be a certain symmetry in the design of the sandal. So it was going to be 2 on one side, 2 on the other, or 3 on one side, 3 on the other. 3 on both sides is a problem because you got the extra 1 in the front. But 2, so 6 is like the forgotten middle child who doesn't get mentioned because it's unlikely to happen.
Rabbi,
yes.
if you think of a sandal, probably there's something at the back which makes it an odd number. Right.
That's essentially, the strap makes it an odd number. So the evens are snishtava sured, and that's what the commentaries, not the Maharam, but the Ramban, I believe, mentions. You see, just to show you briefly. Hava le lameimar, you should have said, I'm highlighting the words. Sheish aser. What's about the number 6? Elashena sandalim asuyim la'olam bezugin. They are never even. Ela oihei oizayin. They are designed with odd numbers. So that's the simple answer. As Reb Beryl pointed out, and your words are reflected explicitly in the Ramban. And so I would say Baruch Shekivanta, that's a pretty fine authority to have your thinking aligned with. Now let's see the Gemara continue. Amar le Rav Eifa le Rabba bar Chana, two contemporaries. Eifa and Rabba bar Chana. Who is Eifa? A rabbi. He says, Atun, Talmidei Rabbi Yochanan. You folks, you're students of Rabbi Yochanan. So you know what you got to do? Avidu Rabbi Yochanan, follow your Rebbe, follow your teacher. Anan, Navet Rabbi Chanina. You have to follow Rabbi Yochanan. So you have to make sure there's only 5 nails in your sandals. However, Anan, we could follow Rabbi Chanina, and we could have up to 7 nails in our shoes. So interestingly enough, this Rabbi Eifa he was mishpacha with many of the famous chachamim that come up in the Gemara. He's the son of Rav Rechava. His brother was called Abimi. So we don't see this name that very often, but he's part of an illustrious Talmudic family. Interesting. The footnotes here, the Rebbeinu Hananel actually comments in our Gemara that really what Eifa was saying is that I really believe the halacha follows Rabbi Chanina, but still a student should always have a differential behavior and reflect the teaching of their teacher. Even though so he's saying, look, I am not going to tell you to go. Sometime he was telling his friend, although I disagree with your teacher, you want to know what I believe? You got to follow what your teacher said and be more machim. So that's an interesting comment. Boy, mene Rav Huna Rav Ashi. Rav Huna asked Rav Ashi, Chamesh Mahu. What is the halacha if there are 5 nails? It sounds like, based on the reading of this text, that this conversation happened before Rav Huna was well read on all of the intricacies of the discussion of a sandal with nails. So again, Rav Huna asked Rav Ashi, without having the advanced knowledge of what we just read in the Gemara. He said, Chamesh Mahu. Rebbe, you taught me that I'm not allowed to, or I hear that you're not allowed to have nails in your shoes. How many? Chamesh Mahu. Is 5 a problem? And interestingly enough, the commentaries want to change Rav Huna to a different Torah scholar, because I don't believe Rav Huna would have been a student of Rav Ashi. And so there's an instinct to either change the name Rav Ashi to be Rav Asi or Rav Ami. So those that are, when we become well-versed and we figure out exactly the intergenerational dynamic, it's possible that this name would not be Rav Ashi. But anyways, Rav Huna asked the following question. Chamesh Mahu, what's the halacha? 5 nails in a sandal, can I wear it on Shabbos? Amar le, he said, what's 5? Afilu sheva muter. You've got 2 bonus nails you can have in your shoe, and it's still kosher. So he said, okay, so 7's okay. Teisha mai, can I have 9 nails in my sandal? He was trying to game out what's acceptable. It's not. Amar le, afilu shmeina aser. So we still know, in truth, even 8 would be a problem. So what's the magic number? According to Rav Ashi or Rav Asi, 7. Why 7? Probably because it's reflecting the Mishnaic opinion of Rav Chanina and Rabbi Nehora, Rabbi Nosson.
You just
right?
called Maddie?
Reberol,
Rabbi, don't you find a bigger problem here, saying you follow what your rabbi says when you have a halacha? I mean, is this a way to operate?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Thank you so much for your help.
We said, or we seem to agree that 5, and then someone comes and says, the halacha says I can't have more than 5 nails, but my rabbi says 7 is okay.
I need
No. What happens is we have multiple opinions about how many nails you can have in your shoe. The rabbi was saying that one friend is telling the other friend, listen, as a rabbi, my belief is to be more lenient. You can have more nails in your shoe. However, as a disciple, as a student, the right thing for you to do is to be machmir, to go beyond the letter of the law, and to act more strictly to honor and reflect the opinion of your teacher. Did that answer the question? So he's not saying to break the halacha, he was saying to be more machmir out of respect for the position that his teacher had. That was an earlier discussion. This is a new discussion. Rav Huna is trying to figure out the halacha for the first time, like we are now. And so he asked halachically, his Rebbe, can I wear 5? And he said, what's 5? The halacha, the prevalent halacha is 7. So we see here a psak that reflects the opinion of Rav Nassan more than Nehorai, reflects the opinion of Chanina, the more lenient opinion, and not the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan, who says only 5.
Okay.
So again, the confusing thing, but the thing we need to bear in mind is the Gemara is bringing us a series of different anecdotes of different generations, which are informing us collectively of what the different opinions are and how they paskin throughout the ages. So again, just to clarify, we have a Mishnaic discussion, that a Brisa, and that's Rabbi Nassan versus Rabbi Meir. We have a Talmudic discussion in the early generations of the Talmud. That's Rabbi Yochanan versus Rabbi Chanina. Rabbi Yochanan says 5, Rabbi Chanina says 7. And then we have a later Amorite discussion where they end up, at least Rav Ashi or Rav Asi paskins like the opinion that says 7, the more lenient position, but not the very most lenient position. He paskins like really the middle opinion. There's an opinion that says 5, there's an opinion that says 7, and there's an opinion that says even 13. So we're not paskining like the opinion that says 13, but we're paskining like 7 as opposed to 5. Not to get all technical on everyone over here. Now we're going to have a story of a shuster. Bo'aminei hahu ratzona mirabi Ami. A certain shuster, a certain shoemaker, asked Rabbi Ami, Tafnu mibifnim mahu. If the sandals that I'm selling, that I'm dealing, were stitched from the inside, the sole and the, what's it called, the part on top of the shoe, are stitched together, mahu, is it acceptable to wear such a shoe? Amar lei mutar. He said, I know it's acceptable, but lo yadana matama, but I don't have the exact reason. Now let's see Rashi. Tafru b'bifnim shenasan minal shel ar lifnim min sandal. He placed leather on the inside of the sandal. So basically a sandal, I guess, is not usually so enclosed. But here he stitched together a layer of leather that's more shoe-like. So basically, let me clarify, at least based on what I'm seeing over here. You had a sandal with nails. That was a problem. But then they stitched into it a piece of leather that made it more shoe-like. So does this lose its status as a sandal with nails because now it's a shoe? Or does it remain a sandal with nails? Again, he said, can I rehabilitate? I have these sandals with nails. It's a problem on Shabbos. Can I stitch in a piece of leather on the inside, change its status, and now it'd be acceptable on Shabbos? So Rabbi Ami says, you can do it, but I don't have exactly the full rationale behind it. So what does it mean? How can you say give up sak halacha if you don't know the reason? So Rashi right away says, Mutar shemati mirabi Yochanan. I heard my teacher teach me this, and so therefore I'm going to convey to you the halachic principle as I know it. V'tama lo yadana, but my Rebbe didn't tell me the reason. Rashi, mutar, it's allowed. L'kvoya boy masmar mechutz. It can have also nails on the outside. So being that it was stitched together on the inside, the existence of nails does not make it unkosher, because ultimately we know. And here maybe I wasn't clear. If it was stitched together on the inside, ultimately it's being held together by stitching. And so what are the nails? They can only be a design feature. Rav Ashi heard this story. He heard how Rav Ami said, the halacha is mutar v'lo yadana my taima, but I don't know why. And he said, v'lo yada mark mahai taima. Is it true that Rav Ami couldn't know the reason? Here's the reason. Kivan l'tfarai mibifnim. Now that there is leather being stitched from the inside, heva le min al. This sandal lost its designation as a sandal. A sandal needs to be an open toe. Your feet can breathe. Once you're putting leather inside, it's a plain old shoe. The sandal gazra be'rabbanan, the rabbi's whole decree was only about sandals. But min al loy gazra be'rabbanan, but a shoe, that was never the problem. So it's not so much the absence of the function of the nails, but simply the whole foot gear has been upgraded. It's evolved from being a sandal to being a shoe, and that's why it's acceptable. Interesting. Let's see. Should we look in? Now, why is a shoe okay if a sandal is prohibited? Back to the same reason. The whole event, the tragic event of the trampling, the guy was wearing a sandal. So that's the problem. That's the gzera. This is Rashi's Pirish, but it's been brought to my attention that there are other Rishonim, there are other sages, namely the Ritva and others, who say, like I originally said, the stitching style distinguishes it from a sandal hamasumar, a sandal being held together by nails. It's being held together by stitches. But we'll stick with Rashi. So Rashi again explains, the Gemara explains that the leather turns it into a shoe, as opposed to the stitching style being different. All right, Reb Beryl Schuster, we're not done with the shoemaker discussion. Boyemine Rav Abba Bar Zabda, Rav Abba Bar Avina. Rabbi Abba, son of Zabda, asked his buddy Rabbi Abba, son of Avina, Asoi kimin kalbus mahu. What if the nails that he's hammering into his shoe are not regular nails, they are kalbus nails? What is a kalbus nail? So we'll read Rashi, but I think really it's more akin to a staple than a nail. Just they didn't used to have staples the way we have them today, and so they called it a folded nail. Let me see if I can get this picture on the screen.
Rabbi Steinsaltz's description is of a staple, two sharp ends bent together.
Baruch Shekivanti, exactly. Baruch Shekivanti. Now let's see if we can post it up on the screen, just so you can see how my Gemara here. Bear with me another moment. Let's see if it'll. Here is a picture. It's like both ends are nail. And in our modern world, that looks very, very much alike to what our modern day staples are. All right. If that picture helps in any way, there you got it. So the question again is, Asoi kimin kalbus mahu. What is the halacha if he turned the nail or he fashioned the nail that's more like a staple? What do? You take a piece of metal, you make it pointy at both ends, you bend it, and now you got a staple. Rashi. Lemasmar kimin kalbus balas. Fin nefailun, shnei roshan chadin, two pointy edges. The kfufin, and they're bent. The noyet, shnei roshim be'etz, and both ends are knocked into the wood. Kidamrina besoita, and the Gemara Meseches Soita has a similar use of the word kalbus shabarzel matil molotechpia, describing how a two-edged nail, otherwise known as a staple, or something akin to a staple, was knocked in. I actually have a feeling, Rivero, and if we'll do the research, there's probably the name for a nail that's like this, and it's probably something similar, but not exactly a staple. anyways, but I don't have my Steinsaltz Gemara here with me now. It's only, so when I find it, I'll take a look and see if he gives us any more insight. So is it acceptable to have a shoe that's hammered together with these kind of staples? He answers, Amar, Ma'u Amar Le Mutter. I'm sorry, Abba tells Abba, Rabbi Abba Bar Zavda is answered by Rabbi Abba Bar Avina. It is acceptable. It is mutter. Why is it mutter? Probably the answer is, well, let's see who here can guess why this nail, this staple sandal would be acceptable. Anyone want to take a stab at it?
Yeah, it's not exposed anywhere. It's not going to make any noise. It's not going to fall out.
And more, tell me something else. The original Gezerah also was with nails, not with staples. But in addition to that, Rebel, you're correct. It probably has a different interaction with the earth, and so the effect is different. But I believe the most fundamental answer is that that's not what the Gezerah was all about. I believe so. It's Marnami, and indeed we have a supportive teaching from an earlier generation of Amoraim, Amar Rav Yosi, Rabbi Chanina. I'm sorry, this would be from a Mishnah. Amar Rav Yosi, Rabbi Chanina, Asok min kalbos mutter. If indeed it was turned into a nail-like situation, it would be, I take that back. I don't believe this is a Mishnah. This is going to be from the Amoraim. But the bottom line is we have an earlier teaching that concurs that a staple would be acceptable. And let's read Rashi, who makes the point that I made to you explicitly. Hoyel, v'nishtana, mishar masmarim, being this is an a typical nail, the legazra elamaina ma'ura, the whole gazer was only typical naily sandals, and therefore this does not get included. Hamad Avsheshes, this is, I think, another thing that you referenced in the beginning of our discussion. What if the whole sandal is so utterly coated with nails? Because leather could wear down, or wood would break down with frequent exposure to the earth. But if you put a lot of metal, maybe something that we would call today are like taps or something to that effect, that'll prevent the sandal from breaking down. Is that acceptable? And the Gemara answers, mutar, it is permissible. Why? Because this is not either what the discussion was all about, the story was all about. This is not how the shoe was, and therefore the Gezerah was not made for a practically metal bottomed sandal. That's Rav Sheshes' teaching. Again, if it's totally covered in nails, you can wear it on Shabbos outside, because that's not what a spiked sandal looks like. Let's see the Gemara. Tanya Kavasei de Rav Sheshes. We have a brisa that reflects the teaching of Rav Sheshes. And what we're going to see here now is a brisa that talks generally a good bit about our sandal subject. So it's going to be kind of like a recap, and it'll also spur further conversation. I know we've been moving at a fairly rapid pace these last few days. Please let me know. Clearance to continue. Are we good? Any questions, comments, thoughts? Dr. Hammer, you're muted. We'd love to hear your voice.
Would it be possible to have the text side by side with the English rather than?
Yes. I intended to do that and I didn't. Thank you.
Good. Okay. Thank you.
And then we'll also close that. Well, let's just see. Is there any Rashi? Oh, there's a lot of Rashi. It's got to be a way to shift so it doesn't. All right. Thank you, Doctor. Tanya Kavasei Dirav Sheshes. There's a brisa or Tosefta that's taught a teaching that shores up the opinion of Rav Sheshes regarding a sandal that's entirely covered in.
Rabbi, that's the perfect solution. You can go out, but you can't walk. Perfect.
No. What do you mean?
No, that would be the perfect solution. You can go out, but you're not allowed to walk.
If you can walk on your hands. A person, a man. And again, there would be an interesting question if women would be permitted to wear this. It sounds like this was conventionally a more male style. A man should not go out on Shabbos with his feet. He shouldn't walk outside with a sandal hamasumer, a spiked sandal, which we've given some definitions. Let's see. Let's see if the Brisa fills in any details. V'lo yitayel mibayis labayis. You shouldn't even wear them when walking from one structure to another structure within a chutzner and essentially within an eruv. Afilu mimita lemita, and you even shouldn't wear it to walk around the house. They should not be worn on Shabbos, period. Aval, but there is a big license. Mitaltal and Isa, you're allowed to carry it. It's not muksa, although you shouldn't wear it. The restriction of wearing it is not because it's inherently muksa. It's because of a specific zera about traumatic events that occur. So you can use it for other uses. Mitaltal and Isa lechasois boyesakli. It can be carried if it is needed to be used to cover a kli.
Functional fixedness comes again.
V'lismoich boy kare hamita. You can also put it under your bed if it's a little rickety or whatever else. You might want to. Other reason why you might want to put a sandal under your bed, under the leg of your bed. So it's not muksa. It can be used for other things, but it ought not be worn. The wearing is the problem. Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon, Eiser. However, Rabbi Shimon says no, you cannot. Why not? I guess once its primary use is prohibited, it's essentially muksa, and he doesn't expand the creative uses of this keli, the functional fixedness. So it's not. I don't think it's that Rabbi Elazar doesn't conceive its uses, but he says that a permissible use that would make it not muksa needs to be closer to the original function of the use. But actually Rashi disagrees with me, so I'm gonna see why Rashi says that you can't use it. I tried to tie it into functional fixedness. Rashi says Dilma Asi L'Noyale, it's a gzera. If you're gonna be using those shoes all day long in your house, fixing stuff and doing stuff, you'll end up wearing it. What's the question that this Rashi triggers? That sounds like a gzera, that sounds like a decree that you shouldn't wear the shoe. And exer ligzer, you shouldn't even handle the shoe. We don't usually do two rabbinic decrees to shore each other up. Maybe we'll see a discussion on that, but that's a question that arises in Rashi. Someone asked about if the nails fall out. What happens if the nails fall out? And all that's left is 4 or 5. The Gemara is going to elaborate on this. Well, then you're allowed to wear it. The Rebbe Matir ad Sheva. Rebbe says even if only 7 nails are left, or even if there are more nails left, 7, it's permissible. A lot of what we're reading in this Tosefta is highly reflective of the earlier teachings that we read. Chifahu be'or milamata. V'kava by masmaris lamayla. What if the bottom of the shoe is covered in leather? And the nails are from the top of the sandal mutter. It's permissible. Why? Again, this was not what the story was not what the footwear looked like in that story. What if you also use staple-like nails? Or like a, let's see what he translates a tas. Or it's like a platter. Or the whole shoe was totally covered with nails, so that it doesn't wear down, mutar. All of those scenarios are permissible. Let's read Rabbi Steinsaltz just one more time. If you covered it with leather from the beneath the wooden frame of the sandal and put the nails into it from above, it is permitted. If you made the nails like a tongue or like a platter, I don't know what that would exactly would look like, or sharpened it like a peg, or covered it entirely with nails, all those scenarios are permissible. Just to recap, what is the reason why this whole Tosefta is quoted in the Gemara? Primarily to make one case, make one point. The one point is that Rav Shesh's opinion is reflected in the Tosefta. That if the whole bottom of the shoe is covered in nails, it is acceptable. In order to make that point, we were zoche to study a lengthy excerpt of the Tosefta that goes through a whole bunch of halachot, a whole bunch of Jewish law regarding sandals. And for us, it was a wonderful chazara of sort because it reminded us of many of the issues that we already reviewed and discussed today. Now, before we continue, if you'll indulge me just for a moment, my question was, Rabbi Lozer, Rabbi Shimon, Oyser. All right, no one asked my question, so I guess it's not that much of a question. One more moment. All right, let's see. Okay, let's read these two more lines, and then I'm gonna read for you a little overview on the halacha nowadays. Haguf Akash. The Gemara says this above Tosefta has a very strong inherent conflict, an inherent contradiction. Why? Amar's first it says Nashu Roiv Masmarisa. It says most of the nails fall out. It's allowed to be worn. Afal pi afal gav dinishtaira beitua. You might have had 100 nails in your shoe, and 60 fell out. You've still got a lot of nails, or let's revise that. Maybe you have 30 nails and 15 or 16 fell out, but you still have 14 nails left. So that would indicate that even 14 or 13 nails is acceptable. And then the very next line of the Tosefta indicates that it only has to be 4 or 5 nails or 7 nails according to the other opinion. So which one is it? Do you have to have almost all the nails and only have 4 or 5 left? Or even if most of them fall out? Which one is it? It sounds like an internal contradiction. Amar Rav Sheshes says simple. Answer simple, like kasha. This is not an inherent self-contradictory statement. Kan shenigmemu, if they were broken, milamai lever shumay nikar b'techa eis, afilu tuva da minkar shene kibriyasa. If the nails all broke, so then as long as most of them fell out, we'll read Rabbi Steinsaltz in a moment, is acceptable. Kan shenekru. When the nails were removed, then there have to only be 4 or 5 left. I'm not sure I understand Rashi, so let me see Rabbi Steinsaltz. This is not difficult. It can be resolved. Here, where it is permitted to go out wearing the sandal if most nails fell out is in a case where they were broken. The heads of the nails were broken off. Most of the nails remain embedded in the sole. In that case, it is clearly evident that most of the nails fell out. Here, whereas permitted only 4 or 5 nails, is in a case where they were totally removed, and the only nails that remain in the sole are visible. So I believe what he's saying is like this. When all of the nails begin to break down, so as long as most of them are removed, it's already a totally different kind of situation. But if they're being pulled out, and the ones that remain are whole, and like they always were, so then we're going to be a little more strict. All right, we're going to continue analyzing this Tosefta tomorrow. And then we'll be done with the shoe and the Schuster talk. Let me read for you an essay in my Gemara over here, the Mesifta. He brings like this. What is the halacha about these sandals today? So if you recall, we already looked on Sunday, I think. We looked at the Rambam, we looked at others, but let's see if he can add some more to this topic. So he writes like this. The Ran writes that from our Gemara, it's evident that a nailed sandal, a spiked sandal, must only be the specific be specific and quite similar to the sandals worn about 1900 years ago in the time of the Gemara, the time of the story that was recounted in the Gemara. And we can infer from our Gemara that the way those sandals were made back then is that the bottom of the sandal was made out of wood. And then on top of the wood, there was a lining of leather. And then there were straps that would attach it to your foot on both sides. Based on this, a sandal that has nails in the modern day shouldn't be prohibited because the odds are the design is going to be very different from the way the design was back then. Most of our sandals are not made of wood. I suppose sometimes they use cork or something like that, but usually it's other materials. And the Rush, who always distills down the discussions of the Gemara to practical halachic matters, says that the prohibition is only extended to sandals akin to the sandals of that age. And then he says, very interestingly, we don't even quite know what a sandal looked like in those days anymore. Then the Ran says, that although the prohibition originally had to do with the story, there's another reason not to wear them, which is the reason that I think a bunch of our dear esteemed members of the Chabura have mentioned, which is that it may yet fall off your foot. And that might be another reason to restrict wearing these certain kinds of footwear, maybe flip-flops or other kinds of things which can easily slip off your foot. This is, again, quoting the Ran. So we so far brought two opinions, the Rosh and the Ran, in this essay, who clearly mention that the prohibition is only about sandals of that age. So if you're doing an archaeological dig and you find a Roman sandal from 2,000 years ago, you might, and it's full of nails on the bottom, and there's a bunch of nails, you might want to think twice about wearing it on Shabbos, but otherwise, seems like it should be okay. Then we have the Meiri, and he says, similarly, that the sandals that were prohibited were only the ones of that age, and like the way they were in the story. And he also makes the same point. But if you're afraid it's going to fall off, well, then maybe you should be careful about wearing it in the public domain. If it's if it's well affixed, so then it should be entirely acceptable. The Torah, no, let's go straight. The Shulchan Aruch never even brought down this halacha, indicating that it's entirely not applicable Bizman Hazeh. One of the conventional commentaries in the Shulchan Aruch, called the Bach, writes, in the name of the Maharshal, an early Ashkenazic posek around the same time as the Ramah, says, we don't prohibit wearing sandals nowadays with nails, unless it's akin to the way it was in the story. Our shoes, which have occasionally nails or cleats or taps to prevent the shoe from breaking down, certainly should not be prohibited. As a matter of fact, the Mishnah indicates, or the Tosefta indicates explicitly, that that would be an acceptable kind of sandal to wear. So it seems like the consensus, based on the essay I'm reading, based on our previous survey of the Shulchan Aruch and the Rambam, should indicate that this is not a matter that we need to worry about much. Is it because this halacha was canceled? Not at all. God forbid. This halacha remains entirely in force. The reason why this halacha is not so applicable Bizman Hazeh nowadays is simply because shoe styles have evolved much in the last 1900 years. And this whole gezerah was meant to be highly specific to the shoe of that event, to recall and to prevent the recurrence of the traumatic incident with all of the similarities of that day. And so Baruch Hashem, this subject, unlike most of the subjects of the Masechus Shabbos and the laws of Shabbos, is closer to the academic side than the practically applicable side. And so there you have it, a little bit of a summary on the matter of these kinds of shoes, Bizman Hazeh, nowadays. With this, we'll
just
conclude.
one more thing.
Hold on. With this, we'll formally conclude our session of today's Gemara. Of course, I'd like to hear all closing comments from our dear members, and we're going to give Kedima Our dear Schuster, Beryl.
I was just going to tell Bernie that I appreciate he didn't lace into us.
Oh, you, I'll continue banging away at you, Beryl. Don't worry.
Professor, how are you feeling?
Yeah, you're mute. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm better.
It's good to see you. We missed you.
We missed
Thank
you. We
you.
missed your input.
It was a very hard surgery for me. Something went very long, and for some time I wasn't able to see at all. And it was a horrible pain. And it wasn't clear where it was going to go.